So for whatever reason, the audio cut out while I first started this, but just want to go over Robert's truck on where we're at on progress and things. And yeah, from here forward, the audio starts picking up. About kind of what the plan is with this truck. So right now he has the MCM long travel kit. He's got the 2.5 triple bypasses. He's got the 2.5 coilovers, and then 2.0 bump stops. So this thing already handles super well. We did just a traditional like short course style trailing or 4-link on it about a year ago, and it performed really well, but we wanted to take it to the next level. We wanted to throw some bypasses on the rear and show you guys what we got next. All right, so first thing we had to do is the frame rails were cut. You can see right below the door is where we had to cut the frame rails. About 7 feet of frame rails had to get cut off. And the reason being is with the trailing arms, let me show you the trailing arms that we're gonna be using. These are the 48-inch long Rough Stuff trailing arms that obviously Robert bought from Rough Stuff, and I welded up for him. And so it's obviously going to be going on the outside of the frame rails, but as you can see from the stock frame rails, there's just not a lot of room to bring what you can see with the axle, not a lot of room to bring the trailing arms with any triangulation. It had been perfectly parallel and it just wouldn't work out well. So what we did in order to get the trailing arms to have decent triangulation is we just basically built it off the existing frame rails. It's a 3-inch spacing, and then we used some 2x4 square tubing and remade the frame rails all the way back. And then again, we just did the same thing for the cross members, front and rear, all the way back. Did some overlay plates and stuff like that to really square it up and keep it strong. Same thing here with the body mount, all 3/16 overlay plates, just keep it really strong. Then fuel cell stuff that I drew out on CAD, pretty simple stuff off these measurements, and then had Caleb over at Hot Metal Fab go ahead and get them cut up for me. Did the bead roll in on it, and also on the mounts. Probably can't see that. You can't see it over here, but you can probably see it. We'll drop this thing down. But you can see he dimple dyed those for us. We'll drop this down in a minute and go over that. But yeah, that's pretty much what we got going on here. We wanted to try to get as much triangulation as we can to be able to really get the best geometry that we can out of this thing. So yeah, let me go ahead and drop this down real quick and I'll show you what we got. All right, so let's kind of jump inside and see where we're at here. So as you can see, there is a lot of floor that we cut out in order to get where we needed to be. Let me open up the back for some better lighting. All right, so in order to get some welds where we needed on the frame rails, we had to cut out the flooring even under the seats. And then we wanted to kick up the frame a few more inches to get a little bit more up travel. So we had to notch the sheet metal here. There's a lot of cutting over here. And then obviously with the upper links going on top of the axle and upper link mounts, you know, it's going to be sticking up quite high. So obviously this is going to be under the axle, but the link mounts are going to be kind of sitting. The bump is going to be like right underneath the frame rail. So it's going to be max up travel as we possibly can. And so, yeah, so this is actually going to be the sway bar tube. And then the shock mounts are going to be coming up in hoops. Here's the shock mount hoops. It's going to be something like that. I don't know if you can see it very well, but then we have the overlay plates and stuff like that for the shock mounts. So we got that going. Just recently finished up the upper link mounts. I drew this up on CAD, had Caleb over at Hot Metal Fab cut and bend it for me, and then did all the welding. The back piece, I just did all this by hand just because it was too much to try to draw on CAD, all these weird angles and stuff like that. So got that all done a couple weeks ago. The axle's pretty much done, just got to weld these lower link mounts on and should be buttoned up there. Yeah, you can see on the fuel cell all the stuff that Caleb did on the dimple dies and stuff like that. Got it all bent up for us. You can see probably better here too. So it's not all bolted in right now, but this is going to be bolted in there. Got all the mounts. So it's going to be supported from the top and from the bottom, and the cradle, keep it pretty strong. It also keeps it lightweight with all the dimple dies and stuff like that. So yeah, it's getting there. So let me show you the other parts. So I want to show you guys the sway bars that we're going to be using. Some pretty badass, I think these are 24-inch length sway bar arms, and they're the trophy truck size, the desert truck size bar. I think it's a 35 spline. It's about the same size as an axle. Sorry, excuse my messy ass garage, but you can see how massive this sway bar shaft is. I mean, if you look at his 35 spline axles we have over here, so here's the stock Toyota axle right there, and then here's 35 spline from the 9-inch. So it's the same, hard to tell, but different length, but yeah, same size. So pretty damn impressive there on the size and just the beef of these damn things. And the fitment of these TK1 sway bar arms are as tight as you can realistically get. I had to throw some parts in the freezer, try to loosen up the tolerances and pound them in, but it worked out really well. And these things take forever to weld, but goddamn, they're freaking beefy, they're heavy. And then over here, again, excuse my messy ass garage, it's been a bit. These are the shock mounts. So these go over here. And I'll see if I can throw in some, that's not even the right one. So it goes like that kind of thing. So that's for the shock mounts. And here's his bypasses. It's got 16-inch 4-tube bypasses, some 2.5s, and then 14-inch coilovers, 2.5s as well. So I think that pretty much sums it up. But yeah, here's the one of the body mounts for the front body mount. So it's supposed to be, you know, upper and lower bushing, and that upper bushing, I lost it. I don't know what the hell happened to it, but we had to order some more. That pretty much sums up where we're at on things. There's still a lot of progress left to do. I told Robert that I don't have enough time to do all of the work. I'm not doing the full cage. It will be fully caged. It needs obviously a ton of sheet metal work, but it's just not something I have time for. But I do love doing the suspension stuff, and I do love fabricating, so I think this is going to be a really fun project, but I can only do so much of it, and especially when I have a project coming back to me here soon, and I'm going to be working on mine. So here's where we're at. Hopefully in maybe 1 or 2 more weekends, we can get the rest of this stuff knocked out and be ready to get this thing fired up, hopefully, and just at least test out the suspension side of things. But it's definitely going to need a full roll cage. And he's also talking about getting a different front long travel setup. Even though this performs extremely well, this MCM kit, it might not be able to keep up with the rear end. So we'll see what it does, but that's in the future. And then he may need a little bit more power to keep up with the suspension. So it's gonna be fun. We'll see how it goes.